I think this is a good stepping off point. We can step into the personnel they have, all that work that Gerson has worked over the last 2 years to put together, and going into this season as they are.
Yeah, we
Um,
have good young players on this team. Personnel wise, they are under Chris Finch, and he just started, with less than 30 games last year. I don't know how many he ended up coaching, but this is going to be his first full season as a Timberwolves head coach. And he's got Karl-Anthony Towns, he's got Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, and he's got a couple of other young guys around him. First, talking about Cat, I'm expecting a huge season out of him this year after injuries the last couple of seasons. And, he's sort of fallen off in terms of recognition around the league. He used to be in this same pillar of unicorn bigs with like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. But now, those guys have passed him. And there's even some sports critics out there, morons, that think like Bam Adebayo or someone else is even better than Cat.
mhm.
Um, he needs to have a big season to prove, that's who he is. He's the guy who can be a generational shooting big, and he's get better at defense to prove that he can be just a great big in general. And so I'm excited to see his coming out party this year. I think he's going to have a big chip on his shoulder. Last year was a tough year for him with all of the loss he had due to COVID. And I'm hoping this year maybe the mind's a little clearer.
Yeah, I mean, not just generational. I mean, people are already talking about that Cat's the best shooting center we've ever had in the NBA, and I mean, I'm 100% he'll finish as the best shooting center in the NBA ever in the NBA by the end of his career. I mean, he really just has to beat out Brook Lopez. I think he's the one who has the 3-point record, but he's already great in that perspective. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to see him get some awards. He has to step up. That's a huge part. I think it's more or less on everyone around him. I mean, they need to improve in a lot of ways. They only had a 109 offensive rating. Granted, last season was huge for all of them. Like everyone missed time except for Anthony Edwards, who played 72 games. But everyone missed time. Jaden was out a few games. Obviously, Cat was out half the season. D'Lo was out half the season. Malik was in jail. you know,
Yeah. And he had an injury too.
and he had an injury when he came back.
Yep.
But it'd be nice to see them all on the floor. I do really like the trades they made. Pat Bev, awesome. Like I
Yeah.
think he's great to build that. They have to change the defensive culture. So uh, kind of getting into like what Monty Williams did with Ayton and Booker. Neither one are that great of defensive players. Especially Booker. I mean, there was a point where he was one of the worst defensive players people just thought of because scored 72 and lost the game, Granted
Yep.
that game wasn't much on him. He scored 72 points, but you can certainly build a good defense, make it to the finals on not the best defensive stars. And I think building those defensive pieces, I think a lot of it will be seeing the progression of Jaden McDaniels as he came in. People didn't, I mean, they saw the potential of defense, but it was more like shot creating and shooting was the big reason why you drafted him. And he turned into like, he just bought in on the defensive end. He's like, somebody's got to play defense on this team. And he showed up pretty
Yeah.
well. And Nas can play good defense. Pat Bev is awesome. And obviously Okogi's a great defender to have on the team. Uh, but I do really like the move. I liked the idea of the move for Torian Prince. We'll see. I mean, they really needed size. They only had two guys, two big men last season, and that was Nas and Cat, and one was always injured.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not like in a small ball lineup, like size isn't as important anymore. However, they're not a physical team, and they run 5-out offense. They have very few cutters inside, so that physical aspect is taken out. So you can they just get bullied. And I mean, 5-out is made because they're a 3-point shooting team. I mean, they're 12th in 3-pointers made, which means they obviously are pretty good 3-point shooters, but 25th in 3-point percentage, which means most of their shots are coming from three. So it means they have a good volume. They just need to lock in, and I think they need a little better of a defense built around them. I think Torian Prince is fine enough until they figure out who's going to be at the four. We'll see. I mean, he's not defense. He's just there to shoot the ball, help that spacing that the Timberwolves love so much. I mean, eventually it'll work. They just need to build a defense within that system.
Yeah, Torian Prince is a fine player. He's not going to start for us. I wouldn't expect that. I believe Jared Vanderbilt is going to be the starting four, and Jaden McDaniels might even start at the three. Torian Prince is a good shooter. I think coming off the bench, that's going to be valuable, especially next to guys like Leandro Balmero and Patrick Beverly, and as well as some other young guys who don't have as much experience, but obviously having a couple of veterans like Beverly and Prince is going to help us out a lot. So I think there's a lot to be excited in terms of the shooting. Like you said, they've been taking the shots. That's the identity that they want to be as a 3-point shooting team that gets out in transition. And with Rosas gone, I hope that they still continue that vision. I think with the personnel we have, you kind of have to. But I still see that Beverly contract and that Prince contract as more tradable assets, less than guys that they see being focal parts of the rotation, especially that with Prince. But I love the Patrick Beverly trade, getting rid of both Juancho Hernangomez and Jarrett Culver, guys who weren't going to get minutes this year. At least I hoped they weren't. For a guy that, you bring in a guy who is going to give you solid defensive minutes and be able to play in crunch time. Even that's a huge win in my book for sure.
Yeah, I really like that. And I mean, I imagine the starting five is going to be like D'Lo, Edwards, McDaniels, Vanderbilt or Prince with Cat, and then their 6-man is Beasley. I'd like to see Beasley as a 6-man. I think it'll suit him better. I don't like the fit with D'Lo, Beasley, and Edwards. It's just not enough defense. At least Edwards can hold up better against twos rather than put him against threes. And having Jaden at the threes just adds that versatility. That's nice for perimeter defense.
Yeah. That's why I think Vanderbilt and McDaniels in the starting lineup makes sense, because defensively we need their help. Like Malik at the 2 and Edwards at the 3. I kind of get that from an offensive perspective, especially if the rumors are true that Edwards grew 2 inches this year. But at the same time, I still would want Edwards to be a little bit bigger defensively and to prove that he can handle threes defensively. We already know that Jaden, he can. Just we don't know from like a full game scale of how that's going to look. Yeah. But I've got more confidence in Jaden defensively than really anyone else that we put at the 3 besides maybe Okogie.
Yeah, for sure. Also, it'd be nice to see them make a trade for someone. I like Vanderbilt. I think he's a great defensive tool to have on this roster. However, I think they need more at the 4 position. Obviously, I think Miles Turner would be great at the 4 as center, whichever they want to play him next to. Simmons obviously would be a perfect fit. I mean, there's still like Harrell out there. I mean, he's probably a tradable contract. He's definitely a tradable contract with Torian Prince and Pat Bev on the roster, and I think he would fit well. He's not the lockdown defense we need, but he still has that effort, that rim running. He won't hurt the spacing, being that they have nothing but space on this team, but we'll like to see. But actually,
I like Trez a lot. I mean, when he was a free agent last season, I was really hoping that we'd go after him, but wasn't too surprised that he just wanted to go to a big market and compete. So
yeah, for sure. But I do have a trade and it's Miles Turner for Torian Prince, Okogie, and McDaniels. That immediately, as a fan of the Timberwolves, I feel like we're giving up too much, especially in McDaniels. However, it's definitely a win now move. Maybe we can get a second in there, a second or 2 in there back from the Pacers. Pacers getting rid of Turner, making room for Brissett, and they get back a nice perimeter defender, Torian Prince, who's just contract filler at this point, and they get a nice young power forward or wing to put next to Sabonis. Also, they could commit to putting Sabonis at the center, which I know they like to play him at, and McDaniels wouldn't be the worst 4 to put next to him. I think he would fit a lot better, more consistent shot than Turner. Not as good as paint defensive, but I think that's a win now move. I think if I saw that move, I would settle for it. I'd be like, okay, they're doing what they can around Cat while we still have him, and I think that'd be worth it.
I'd be happy with that move if it came with a Miles Turner extension. I would prefer to trade Malik Beasley for that package if given the chance,
Really?
rather than Jaden McDaniels being the focal point. But if it came down to it, I would do it. I mean, I think that we need to get a starting caliber four here or another big next to Cat. I like Vanderbilt. He's not a starting caliber four. Any Timberwolves fan that tells you that is just sucking their own T Wolf cock. All right. It's not realistic. Like he does some good things, but he can't shoot for shit,
Right. No, yeah,
especially from
right.
the free throw line.
And I think my last thing is if they maneuver a Simmons trade where they keep D'Lo, Edwards, and Cat, instant contender. I know they still need a few more moves around them, but instant contender. I
Instant
mean,
playoff contender, instant championship contender.
instant championship contender. Give
Whoa!
them a
Play the
year.
air. Play the
Give them a year. Give them a year. Those four. I mean,
great top
so
four.
remember, Cat at one point is an MVP caliber player. Edwards has already emerged. All the stats saying offensive rating. He had the second best offensive rating last season. He could give him another this year. I don't think we'll see how he does. Give him a third year. I think he's definitely a scoring option on a team. And if
Yeah.
he's the third or second scoring option, especially with Simmons has that's a way better cast,
Oh
especially with
yeah.
D'Lo. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
a dangerous team that's really hard to beat, and they just need defensive players and shoot, and maybe a sprinkle a couple of shooters in there. And I think that's a contending team. I think that's a team you can talk about that can make it far in the playoffs.
On paper, they would be fantastic. I mean, like it would bringing in Simmons would help close up a lot of our weaknesses on the defensive end. My only thing that I'd say would keep them from getting to that championship contender level status is that they're the Timberwolves. I mean, we just saw today that they fired Gerson Rosas out of nowhere, trading for Ben Simmons, who is the poster child of drama in the NBA right now. It would probably be a disaster around the corner waiting for us, I would think. But
uh,
what
well,
else do we got to lose? I mean, we've made the playoffs one time in the last 17 years. So
yeah. Well, D'Lo's really good friends with Ben Simmons. They played either I think AAU together. So I think so they're really good friends. I think that would work out.
I mean, them being friends like doesn't mean that drama won't come though,
Right.
Like
Oh,
I'm just
actually,
saying, like, you never know with this fucking team. Like something can always come up. They always surprise you. And that's just the way it is with the T
actually,
Wolves.
last thing with the Timberwolves, I forgot I put in a 3-team trade here to get for the Timberwolves acquiring Ben Simmons. So let me know what you think of this one. So Timberwolves acquiring Ben Simmons alone, just him. Philadelphia Sixers get Malik Beasley, Pat Beverly, and Colin Sexton, and the Cavaliers get Okogie, McDaniels, and a second from the Timberwolves.
I'd say Cleveland probably needs a first round or two, maybe, but
See, I don't
getting McDaniels out of Colin Sexton is good for them, but I think they could get a lot more than that.
really. Yeah, it's the Cavs side that's a little weaker. Maybe the Wolves put in a first. I mean, if I were the Wolves, I would still do that. I mean, they're giving up 4 players in this deal.
Yeah.
All of them are rotational players for them for just Ben Simmons. However, you still have a Jared Vanderbilt. You still have the main 3. I think that's the big. If you can get Ben Simmons without trading your big 3, I think that's awesome. That's crazy. And I think this could do it. Maybe, yeah, toss in another first to Cleveland. I think that could move the needle. I think the 76ers would look at this package, Pat Bev, Beasley, and Sexton, and be like, this is probably the best we're going to get.
Yeah. I mean, it would
Unless,
be great for the Sixers if they got, a couple of shooters out of it and a guy who can be their immediate starting point guard at a star quality level. I don't see them getting anything better than that. Personally, with like them possibly trading with Sacramento, for example, they said they needed Fox or Halliburton hands down, which I understand. You're not going to get Fox, but Halliburton, to be honest, I feel like the Kings should be willing to trade him for Ben Simmons, but apparently they're not. And so it just kind of leads you to think like, okay, what are people willing to trade for him? Are the Timberwolves the only one willing to trade like any solid players? Well, if that's the case, we don't need to give up D'Lo. Do we
No.
need to give up both Malik and Jaden? Maybe. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, Maury's been asking for a lot. Ben Simmons is not reporting to camp. He's made that very clear. We even got the Woj bomb yesterday confirming it. So this shit's gonna get really messy.
Yeah, we'll see.
But Timberwolves heading into next season, we're expecting a play-in type of tournament type of team, maybe a little higher in the playoffs if they can get some stability going and they win some games. But as every year with the Timberwolves, it's a lot of optimism before the batshit crazy shit starts coming in. So we'll see how it goes. I've got a half season worth of games, so I'll be at Target Center a lot. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, having that package and find out today about the Rosas news, I hit up my rep and I said, "Hey, man, what's going on over there?"
I got it now.
I was like, "Are you serious or not?" But anyways,